a sermon, or even worse, because I'm soft on the sermon thing. Like if you're a bad speaker, like still your heart's in the right place. But when you're bad with people and not a good shepherd,
Yeah.
my gosh, should be like foundational.
Yeah.
It's like getting into the medical field and being afraid of blood. Like you better figure that out quick.
Yeah, I went and visited they're doing the big outdoor meeting right now. And I went, and whoever was teaching, I forget the guy's name, I think it was Mike, but everybody's named Mike. But it was like this guy was such a great teacher, and I'm not a great teacher in that sense. I might be able to teach out of a life experience or a parable, but I mean, this guy was smooth. They were starting the book of Ruth, and he was going verse by verse and doing the whole thing. And it just kind of, I'm glad that there's all these different flavors of the church. And I've always really loved helping churches see the value of the people in the pews. Typically, there's like 5 people that are involved and 100 that don't do anything. And 80 of those people want to do something. And it's like, I love seeing those people be activated and kind of be inspired to lead a small group or whatever. But I'm definitely not open your Bible, and I'm not going to teach you anything. I have it in here, but it's like it never comes out.
Right. Yeah. Well, again, I don't know you super well, but you probably are a conversational teacher. Like, let's have a dialogue, and through the course of a conversation, you're going to glean things, and I might even feel permission to say a few things. Would that describe it?
I kind of go back. One of my first guys before I even was a Christian, a guy named Ryan Ruckman. He told me, people don't care what you know until they know that you care.
How much you care, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just a guy. I like how you describe yourself, and I'm just a guy. But I'm a guy who has encountered God's love for him. I know the love of God. I know his joy, his peace. I just do. So whatever value that is in people's lives, some want to see a seminary experience, some don't care. But I've been able to do whatever I've done just because of that, knowing God's love and being able to love people, like you said. And when it comes down to it, man, that's what a lot of times that's what people are like starving for,
Yeah, totally. So you're an experiential learner, it sounds like. A question then for you, because I always like to ask people is, it's not always in a seminary that God will train you. We've established that. Mm-hmm. But what 2 or 3 either teachers, classes, or events or happenstances can you pinpoint to, like, these are the things that actually prepared me for me being me now? Most influential, whether that was intended by that person or not, God used it. I'm always intrigued because I have mine, but I would like to hear others.
Okay. I have a ton.
You get 3.
I have a ton. So
I know, right? So, it's your show, man. So
yeah. No, but so I'll go both a couple different ways. So one way was I used to lay in bed for like 3 hours at night from like 10 o'clock, 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I would have like 50 tabs open on my laptop. And I'm going through like Wikipedia of like open theism or progressive theism or Christology or whatever it is. And I'm just searching. I was hungry for that knowledge. Hungry for church history. I love church history. I love knowing when the Methodists split off from here and the Pentecostals started there, and the Baptists go all the way on their own, all the way back. I got into all that stuff, was just kind of self-taught, just online. We talked about there's so many different podcasts and stuff now. So that was part of it. That was just kind of that. Another a guy named Mike Bickle. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but they have a ministry out of Kansas City, and it's called IHOP KC. So they have an international house of prayer that goes 24 hours a day. They're basically singing the Bible and praying.
They're online.
Yes.
You can log in. Andy and I just looked him up a couple of weeks ago. We're like, Are they still going? Oh, they're still going.
Yeah,
And it's
so
been going
since
since
1998,
when? Yeah.
24 hours. So I was there in the beginning, way back then. So at one point, I was the director of that type of a ministry here in California, like Central Valley
Okay.
type of thing. So, but anyways, that leader, Mike Bickle, was a big mentor, and one of the things he taught me was you can go through the New Testament once a month by reading 10 chapters a day. And so I'm like, okay, 10 chapters a day. That's a lot, but not that much if you make time. So that was one of the things that I did. So I did the 10 chapters a day plus whatever I was looking at, if I was going through the book of Ruth or whatever. But I did that for at least 20 years. And so
Wow.
when you go through the New Testament, now you're not studying it, you're just reading it. And the first 5 or 6 months, you don't catch anything really. But after 6, 7, 8 years, you've got it. And so that was a huge foundation. So I have that. Going back even further, so I became a Christian at 16, and I came out of the gang lifestyle. So I was in a Mexican street gang for like 4 years.
Really?
Yeah. And before that, I was in a Nazarene church all my life. I was raised kind of conservative, old-fashioned Nazarene church, and my parents were leaders in the church. And they got a divorce out of the blue. So that was actually a huge thing for me, because right then I questioned everything.
Yeah.
So my whole world, everything that I thought I knew, was questioned. So 4 years later, when I became a Christian, I tore that Bible. I started reading it. I wanted to learn all over again. So I just started from Genesis and I read it through. The first year I read it all the way through. The second year I read it all the way through like 3 times. So I was just hungry to learn about this God, but I didn't want the church stuff. I wasn't too excited about that. So those are a couple of ways that I, learned the scripture, was just by reading it. Now, all the other stuff is what I'm kind of passionate about. And I was in the position to start it was a boarding school, and we had like 100 guys in the boarding school. And I don't know where I got it from, but I wanted to have a prayer meeting. And so I don't know if I had the idea. I just got the idea of, let me have a chair, and I'll put somebody in the chair, and I'll just pray for them. The Bible talks about laying on of hands. I don't know, whatever. But I did that, and I would kind of give a little lesson, but day after day that grew. And over about 2 years that I was there, my junior, senior year, by the end of it, every single night we had at least 40 guys staying up after, like, lights out, after 10 o'clock. We'd stay for another hour or 2 hours, like praying, and so it was kind of a movement, and it scared a lot of Seventh-day Adventist people, I'll tell you that, back in the day.
Too progressive or what? Like, what was their fear?
It was led by a kid.
Oh, okay.
So there was no pastor. There was no, the pastor actually at one point came and saw what we were doing, and he kind of blessed it, and they were fine. I had other stuff that I played the drums for the first time in that church on that campus. That was like a breaking thing for them, having a drum. So I was just controversial for them. No dancing, my friend.
Have you heard the old joke? I don't know if it's appropriate here, but it's always when they're like, I think our Mennonite brothers and sisters, like, no sex because it could lead to dancing.
Yes, I've heard that.
It's so funny.
But yeah, it was just a real conservative church. But one of the biggest lessons I learned was after that time, when I graduated, I left, and the next year, I just thought it would continue and grow. And it didn't. It fell apart. Nothing, like, by the end of the next year, nobody was still meeting. Nobody was praying together. So I learned a huge lesson of kind of what you were talking about earlier, of I've got to find a way to duplicate myself. It cannot be about myself. And so that was one of the biggest lessons that I kind of learned. And I started church planting from then on for a long time. And I always remembered that as soon as I could, I would hand off leadership. So there's churches still going on in Porterville today that I started 25 years ago, but they wouldn't know me if I walked in. And I love it. But it's like new leadership has taken over. And so that was huge for me to learn at a young age. And so, like I said, there's tons of lessons, but a lot of it was different people coming into my life, and I just was willing to learn from them and kind of grow. So going back to you, what is one of yours?
Oh yeah, I mean, mine isn't as fancy as yours. I think, I was always a people pleaser, and like I want to be the center of attention, but not like, but also embarrassed. Like I was husky as a kid, and so
Yeah.
I was a kid that didn't want to take my shirt off at the pool. Like all that stuff. So I wanted attention because I wanted to be loved. Like that was really it. Feel good, and I like being the person that keeps a room laughing together. You talked about laughing, by the way. I think a core value should be fun and laughter,
Yes.
joy.
I say if you're not having fun, we're doing it wrong.
Doing it wrong, man. Like what kind of joy can you really preach about? So
yeah.
So so then it's gonna sound dumb, but I was in 9th grade PE, and the dance teacher comes in with her class. Now, one thing that's important to know is that our dance teacher was like world renowned. She was literally on the Disney Channel for Teacher of the Year because she was able to take dance. I mean, lots of schools had dance classes, but very few had 70% of the football team signing up to take these dance classes. And it was everything from ballet to clog to street dance to stunts, grease lightning. I mean, you name it. And we did it. I did a Latin dance. And so I'm 9th grade PE. You're super insecure. I think I might have had a mullet still. There's no pictures. And they come in and they do this whole dancing. We have to learn. All of our students are teaching us. And then it comes time to, I notice that she's looking at me and I'm like, oh God, I'm going to get a bad grade or whatever. And then it comes time to sign up for classes the next year. And so I was signing up. At this point, I was dating Jody, my wife now, right? So we've been together 26 years or whatever. And me, her, my best friend Jeremy, we signed up for dance. And they got into beginner dance, and I went straight to advanced dance, which was a big deal. These are the kids that got to dance on the Disney Channel.
Yeah.
I got to go to LA to Disneyland, and we danced on this team. And so like I was like, oh my gosh. And I'll never forget it, and because it's helped me, is we're all there. First day of class, this is my sophomore year now. I'm looking at all these juniors and seniors, and I'm one of maybe like 3 sophomores. And Patty Baker, she stands up and she's like, all right, this class will not be easy. You, like a drill instructor, just coming at it. She's like, but it was kind of like Ratatouille. Everyone can cook, right? Or whatever. She's like, everyone can dance. And if you're sitting here thinking that you're here by accident, and she like scans the room, catches my eyes and goes, if you're not here by accident, and then keeps on going. And like, she never had a conversation with me. And I don't know if this is luck that she landed on me, but she's like, if you're here, it's because I hand chose you to be here. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I felt super elite. I'm going to be in 3 weeks. I'm going to be at a rally dancing a street dance to It's All Good in front of 2,000 students. And I remember that first dance to this day where I'm like, you can see my lips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so just that. So I was 3 years in advanced dance, and just being up on stage and understanding like the energy of the crowd and working hard to just nail something and helping other people be good at something and being part of a team and really just stage presence. Yeah. I don't know, that sounds stupid, but I think God used it, and he used a lot of other things. The one that ties closely to that is on the football team. I'll never forget. I was asked, so embarrassed. So I was doing pretty good at linebacker. Like I wasn't even, they had me fill in linebacker, and I just kept doing good. I hit the hole. I was short, I was small. I hit the hole and kept hitting the starting running back, and I was the practice squad.
Yeah.
Kept hitting it, kept stopping. His name was Brian Pickett. He was huge. I kept stopping him. And then afterwards, coach was like, "Hey, Bradley, you wanna be a linebacker?" I'm like, "Sure." So they put me at third string linebacker, and then I moved up to second string linebacker, and then the starting linebacker is in a game a month or two later, and his name was Van Voltenberg, and he got hurt, and he went out, and then no, it wasn't. It was someone else who got hurt. Coach comes up to me in front of everyone, was like, "Bradley, are you ready? It's your time. You're starting today." And I responded with, "Well, don't you want to let Van Voltenberg? Isn't he better than me?" And the guys around me were like, "Bradley." And I felt so ashamed that they believed in me more than I believed in me.
Yeah.
This was before dance, mind you. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And so coach looked at me and he goes, "If that's what you think, then you're probably right."
Yeah.
And I can't forget that. And so from that day forward, I made a decision that if someone says that they think I can do it, even if they're wrong, I will try.
Yeah.
And so that it's not super spiritual,
Oh, yeah.
but they're formative, you know?
Yes.
So
Yeah. I mean, my gosh, I have been super blessed, super blessed and super challenged, I guess, at the same time. Because of my beginning of questioning everything, it's very difficult for me to even see a box, let alone get inside of a box. And that scares a lot of religious people sometimes. I think we get very comfortable with doctrine, and it almost just kind of a blanket, and we never want to kind of peek our head out and stuff. And that's fine. It's just not me. And so I've connected with so many awesome people throughout the years that have taught me things, but it's always been like a 2-year relationship or maybe 3 years. And so it's kind of a bittersweet. But because of that, I've gotten to be a part of so many different churches, so many different denominations, non-denominational, big churches, little churches. So all of that is educational. And now I just feel a passion for helping anybody. I mean, whatever it is, you want to be a better a worship leader, I can help you with that. If you want to be a better greeter, I mean, I might have some tips for that. I mean, I love the whole thing, and it's just any way I can help, I want to help. And I don't know, I'm just extremely grateful for all the people that have. I mean, man, I wish I could tell you all the people that have helped me. But anyways, what
you can write them all a letter and say thanks.
I don't think some of them would not want to hear from me. I think, I don't know. I remember, like, I just love, and so sometimes when there's awkward kind of going the separate paths, and that's fine. But sometimes I see those people, and I go up and give them a big hug, and I'm like, oh, okay, we're not doing that. Okay, so it's just
we're not there anymore.
We're not there anymore. Okay, that's fine. But
well, it's probably because it's COVID, buddy. They're like, hey.
This is pre-COVID. I wish there was excuses, but I don't know. It's just kind of, it's been a fun journey. I just love this whole adventure that we're on, you know?
Yeah. It's important to just love the person that's right in front of you. You know, I mean,
yeah.
I get people asking all the time, well, who am I supposed to? I'm like, that sounds really close to who is my neighbor? Like, this isn't a super deep theological thing. Like, are they in front of you? Yeah. Do they probably have a need? Yeah.
Yes.
What's the question really, man? Like, jump on it.
Yeah. There's, I like a lot of these Buddhist kind of parables or whatever, because they say things that we Christians have learned. It's the same stuff, but they say it in a different way that kind of, I think, gets us to think about it more. And there's, I think it's Buddhist, I don't know, but somebody said that, like, tend to the garden that you can touch. Have you heard that one?
Sounds familiar, right?
Yeah, but same exact idea, you know, whatever, whoever you can help, whatever you can do that. Stop dreaming about all this. I mean, don't stop, but like do that now. So
not at the expense of where you're at. Like,
yes.
Dream big, but not at the expense of where you actually are.
So you said that you kind of came to the church stuff later. Did you have any experience with church or Christian upbringing at all? What did the beginning look like for you?
Yeah, so I mean, we all have our sob story on, you know, why life was hard when we were younger, and because this has a potential to go online and someone potentially see it, I'll keep out stories. But a lot of confusion. I could tell you, like, in short, you know that scene from Forrest Gump where Lieutenant Dan goes, "Have you found Jesus, Gump?" And Gump goes, "I don't know. I'm supposed to be looking for him." You know, like that was me. Like, yeah, I didn't know the name Jesus.
Okay.
If you're like, I didn't even know what the word religion meant. If that helps at all, like I didn't know people went to church on Sunday. I didn't know the word church.
Okay.
I
Like
could tell you.
up until like what age?
It's a good question. I'm sure it's sort of like, when did you realize anything? It's like, I don't know. It's maybe 9, 10. Like, I don't remember the moment,
Okay.
right? But at some point, like, I saw my little sister get baptized in a church. I'm like,
Okay.
oh, okay. This place is important, apparently,
Yeah.
And but this first time, and okay, you're a godfather and you're a godmother. What is that? Like, not at all. So it was just strictly going through the motions. And so it would start. My best friend Matthew Brooks, who's a pastor now, he was he he's a nerd. I love him, but he was taller than everybody. He hit puberty than everybody. So there was this cool period where he was better at basketball and football than all of us, and then we all caught up to him and everything. But he was a PK. He was a pastor's kid, and he would invite me over to his house, and they did newspaper route as a family to earn money. They didn't have a lot of money, so they worked really hard, and that was my first experience where I'm like, oh, your dad's a pasture, and what does that mean? And I remember spending the night. He did the whole spend the night with me, and then tomorrow we'll do newspapers, and then we'll go somewhere. Church, right? And so, okay, and so I would go with him, and if I said whatever verses they did, I got a star and a candy, right? Like the whole bit. So that would be like my first sort of, okay. And then I discovered, and I had tons of respect for him because he did, like, remember the whole, you go to party games? I was all about girls. So I was like 23 girlfriends before 10th grade.
Yeah.
And I wanted to hook up with all of them all the time. And that was my life. But he was always different. So like when we'd go to parties and everyone wanted to play with a Ouija board or you remember like light as a feather, stiff as a board, like nonsense. I don't know if you ever did that. I mean, like in hindsight, you're like, yeah, any Christian's going to be like, stay away from that. That's not okay. We didn't know. We were, teenage kids. And he'd be like, sorry, guys, I have to leave the room. And he wasn't mean. He wasn't, and he'd go stand outside. And I'd be like, oh, man, the people pleaser in me was like, I can't have someone standing outside. He's my friend. And so I played one round, and then I go stand out with him, and I just stood there with him. And he's like, yeah, my religion says that I can't dabble in that. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but you clearly believe it. And like, again, those formative moments, like a young teenage kid living it. He didn't even have to explain it. I just knew that it meant something to him. And so